I just came off of Coppola land. This is a guy who's got power. He can make the entire industry flex. Like, he'll make them all turn based on a...
Did you like the movie?
Give me what I want.
I don't know what you want. No.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ajay Discusses Movies, a show in which I discuss movies both old and new. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the holidays and what's to come, not just in film, but the festive Christmas time and the affiliated holidays surrounding the month of December as well. As you can tell, there has been a change in the podcast. So it is no longer Ajay and Nathan Discuss Movies. It is now only Ajay Discusses Movies. This was a mutual decision. Nathan reached out to me, let's say like a week or two ago, and he said, hey man, I just don't have any interest in doing the podcast. And I said, it's completely fine. I understand. And yeah, we're no longer doing it. Again, we're still friends. We're still buddies. I met with Nathan last Friday, so we're still friends. We're still good friends. And, again, it's tough. Running a podcast, especially in today's world, is very different, is very difficult, especially a movie podcast. Because not only are you investing your time sitting down to discuss a movie, you also have to make time out of your day to then go watch that movie and get your thoughts together, get your notes together, and be willing to discuss it in a more sort of meaningful way. And that can be difficult, especially in today's time. Especially when you're doing a podcast for over a year and some change in which you don't really see any sort of material benefit out of it, when you're not really seeing any economic benefit out of it. It's very difficult to take time out of your day for something that you feel as if you're not really making anything out of it. And that's sort of what the state of the podcast was for a while, I mean, if you look back at those recent episodes that Nathan and I did, you'll see that there was definitely a vibe shift happening. That's not to say that Nathan and I are no longer friends. We're still friends. It's just that when you do a podcast and when you're sort of forced to talk about films and do so in a way that is on a weekly basis, you will not have that much enjoyment doing it. So, all that to say that it's now been rebranded from Ajay and Nathan to just solely me discussing movies. That doesn't mean that I won't have any guests. I'll try my best to have guests because that's where the dynamics really foster and really elevate, in my opinion, and sort of make it a more fun, enjoyable conversation to have and discussion to have and to listen to, is when you're hearing a butting of heads or differences in opinion, and do it so in a Siskel and Ebert way, in a regular media kind of way. But that is just the state of the pod right now. So it is solo for me from now here on out. We do not know whether or not Nathan will be a part of the State of the Film Address. If I had to be a betting man, probably not. But that doesn't mean that me and Nathan's relationship has been wrecked or ruined. We're still friends. We still talk to one another. And yeah. So just wanted to let you guys know. And we'll continue on with our merry way. So I did watch a few new movies that were released this past month. The first movie that I did watch was Dan Trachtenberg's Predator Badlands. This film was released, I would say, Veterans Day weekend. I was able to catch it Veterans Day. And in terms of a communal movie-going experience, this was the best film that I've watched in the month of November. I really enjoyed this film. It was fun, it was palatable, and more importantly, it was able to show Predator to a bigger audience, but not dilute its purpose or its message. And I think when you want, and again, just a summary on the movie. The movie basically stars Deck and Elle Fanning. Deck is played by some guy, I don't know his name. I'll put in his IMDb, or there's a wiki over here. It stars Deck as this member of the Yautja as he travels to a new planet to conquer a new species to gain the approval of his folks back at home, even though it deals with aliens and, Weyland Yutani and all those sort of names that we're familiar with over the past few years, especially with Alien Romulus and those within the Alien Predator franchises. Even though it's dealing with all these sci-fi ideas and topics, it is still very applicable to the way that we live our lives today. So yes, the movie's about that. Elle Fanning stars in the role of the supporting cast, And I enjoyed this movie. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was a little less than 2 hours, I'd say. But the pacing is really great. It keeps you entertained throughout the entire movie. I thought the visuals and the cinematography are also really good. The only blemish that I really give this movie is that, and this is similar to many other sci-fi films, is that when you see the fight sequences, it's hard to discern what's happening. It's very similar to that of, say, like the Transformers movies, where you're watching the fight sequences and you really want to be engaged and enthralled with it. But there are times when you're watching it where you just don't know what's really happening. And that can sort of take me out of the film.
Disgusting.
There are also times in which the Yautja are speaking in their language, and sometimes it's difficult to grasp what they're trying to say, which again, I understand that. I understand why what they would, but for a film of this nature, I don't know. I kind of wanted to. Maybe I'm nitpicking here. I'm not so sure, but I don't know. I just felt like it could have been a little bit better, tidied up a little bit here and there. But I mean, again, the script is rather basic. I would say it's dealing with tropes and narratives that we've been dealing with or have been seeing in film for quite some time now. So it's not really offering anything groundbreaking. And quite frankly, like it didn't really matter to me. Like I mean, for me personally, while watching this film, I didn't really want to see a groundbreaking film per se. I just wanted to see a film that could get me entertained, could get me happy while watching it, and that's what I got out of the film. Elle Fanning also does a really good job in this film. She was, in my opinion, better in Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value, which we will be discussing later on in this podcast. But in terms of this film, it's a home run. I thought it was a great film. Definitely go watch it if you haven't already. I think it's still airing in theaters right now. So if you do have the time, then definitely go out and watch this movie. In terms of a family going experience, I don't know about the MSRP rating. I really don't know. But for a family experience, this is definitely the best film you'll watch, assuming your family's into the more action-oriented films. If not, then maybe Wicked for Good. I didn't watch Wicked for Good, so because I'm not that familiar with the film series, I didn't watch the previous film, so I don't really have that much of an interest to watch Wicked for Good. That's why I'm not discussing it. But in terms of a family communal experience, this is definitely the best film to watch on the big screen. So yes, that is my review of Predator Badlands. Rather short, but I think it gets the point across. So yes, Predator Badlands, definitely go see it. It was definitely the best communal experience I had while watching a movie. I watched this in the Dolby format at my local AMC, and there was not an empty seat in the house, and they were oohing and awing when they needed to ooh and aw. They were cheering when they needed to cheer. It was a fun experience, and sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes a movie theater experience can really elevate a movie. A good movie theater experience can really elevate a movie. So maybe I'm judging on a curve here, but yes, go watch it, go see it. It's well worth your time watching, and I am excited to see what's to come with the Predator franchise. I'm not the biggest fan of the Predator franchise. I didn't watch the recent film that was also released earlier this year on streaming, but it is a film that you should definitely go watch. So yes, that is my review on Dan Trachtenberg's Predator Badlands. Obviously, I don't give a number or letter grade to movies because I just don't operate on that level. Nor do I say awesome-tacular or good time, no alcohol required. I don't say any of that stuff because I'm sorry. I can either say I like the movie, I love the movie, I was indifferent about it, or I hate it. Those are my ratings. So you judge it on an A to D curve, or A to F curve, or 1 to 5 curve, or however you justify ratings. But I'm not a rating guy. I just watch a movie, get my thoughts on it, and then go on my merry way. So yes, that's my review on Predator Badlands. Now let's talk about Ruben Fleischer's Now You See Me, Now You Don't. This is the third installment in the Now You See Me franchise.
The first one was called Now You See Me.
Yeah.
Second one called Now You See Me 2.
Yeah.
Third one, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. We pitched Now You 3 Me for a long time.
Colloquially, that's how we've referred to Now You 3 Me
For the second one, we also pitched Now You 2 Me.
Stars Dave Franco, as well as Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Morgan Freeman, Isla Fisher as the original Horsemen, as they team up with the new Horsemen, the New Mutants, that different movie, as they team up with the new Horsemen to thwart off the evils of Rosamund Pike's character. Rosamund Pike is a jewelry shop owner or diamond seller who sells to nefarious criminals such as criminal overlords and drug kingpins, and they want to put a stop to it because morals. So they pull off the elaborate heist of stealing Rosamund Pike's diamond and sending her to jail. I basically just summarized the entire film, but I enjoyed this film. I thought it was a fun film. Honestly, in terms of the best experience I had while watching a movie in the month of November, this takes the cake. This is the best movie to watch in a theater because it's dumb, it's lowbrow, but there are moments in it where you're watching it and you think to yourself, there is an enjoyable film in here. There is. It is quite enjoyable. To be honest with you, when I watch this film, and maybe this is just the fact that it's from the Now You See Me franchise and maybe because of Franco's in it, but it feels like a unofficial Judd Apatow film where you're hearing a lot of humor and it's not often, amazing or stellar. I mean, obviously with the exception of Superbad and maybe Pineapple Express, but it does feel like a Judd Apatow film where they're like, you know what, just riff, have fun. There's no script attached to it. The script is just there as merely as a vessel for these jokes and for these magical powers to occur and for these magic tricks to occur. But just play it by ear, have fun, and don't take it too seriously because this is a heist film that deals with magic. And I thought that the characters did really well with it. The performance was really good. I felt as if Rosamund Pike really elevated the movie, in my opinion. If any other person was thrown in that position, they would not have made a good film. However, Rosamund Pike was the exception to that rule. And I felt like for the past few years, she has been underutilized as an actor. I feel like ever since Gone Girl, I felt as if Rosamund Pike would have this amazing career, this illustrious career with, multiple Oscar nominations under her belt and with Academy Award wins and have a career that we are seeing Emma Stone have right now. It hasn't really been like that for her, which I think is quite a shame. I think that she is a very, very talented actor and deserves more roles and more time on screen. Even though she did have enough time on screen in this film, I felt as if she should have had more. There's only really one negative that I can give this film. There's this post-credit scene in which they're shilling for hard seltzer, and it's unbearable and it takes way too long. But I understand the purpose of it because it does set up future Now You See Me films with a new Horseman, with characters such as Dominic Sessa and Ariana Greenblatt as well. But I just felt as if that hard seltzer scene was just not needed, in my opinion. But yeah, the cast were great. Dominic Sessa looks like a member of the Strokes. But just because he's a member of the Strokes, that doesn't mean he's not good at acting. He's good at acting. I mean, if anything, the holdovers really prove that he's a dominable force that can really be able to get scripts that serve a purpose. And I just thought Dominic Sessa did a really good job in this film, as well as Ariana Greenblatt and the other Horsemen as well. So yeah, favorite part of this entire movie, Andrew Santino. That happened in the movie.
All right, there we go. There she is.
Yeah, there she is. Wow.
How are you guys doing? I'm here on Valentine's Day.
Where Andrew Santino plays a finance bro and his stuff gets stolen, and all of Brooklyn get very happy about that in Brooklyn fashion. But I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, Now You See Me, Now You Don't felt like a Judd Apatow film. Maybe it's because it harkens back, or maybe it's because of a series that first gained prominence in the Obama administration. But it is a fun film, and you should definitely go watch it if you haven't already. So that is my review on Ruben Fleischer's Now You See Me, Now You Don't. So that leads us into the third film that I did watch in the month of November that I didn't really enjoy, and that is Edgar Wright's Running Man. The film stars Glenn Powell as he is in the post-apocalyptic America. He's seeing America down on the outs. He has a family, has a wife, and has a daughter, and his daughter is not doing that well. His daughter is going through some illnesses, and they don't have the money to pay for medicine to pay off the illness or to fight back against the illness. So Glenn Powell decides to enter into a game show that he sees on television. It's called The Running Man. The Running Man's a game show in which Coleman Domingo hosts, in which contestants have to thwart off henchmen by outrunning them, and if they don't outrun them, then they get killed. And it's this very much a doomsday kind of show, very much similar to shows like Survivor, but with death involved. And Edgar Wright made this film. This was the follow-up to Last Night in Soho, which I wasn't a big fan of. I really wasn't a big fan of that movie. And I thought that, okay, this is Edgar Wright going back to his roots, doing something different, and offering something in the same vein as, say, Baby Driver or the Cornetto trilogy or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And then I watched the movie. And it was anything but that. I wasn't a big fan of this movie. I thought it was pretty bad. It's overstuffed. It is a long movie. The pacing is not that great. It's nearly a 2.5-hour movie and some change. The final 10-15 minutes is basically just a summarization of the fallout of not only Glenn Powell's character, but also Josh Brolin's character. There's literally a guy that takes up the screen just to tell you what happens to Glenn Powell. I'm like, dude, like, either show it or just get away with it. Don't talk about the fallout. Just let it happen. Just end the movie. No one has an interest into as to what happens to Glenn Powell's character at the end of it. So the over explanations of the scenes, the way in which this film felt rushed to begin with, we have so much time to establish the show and the characters that we're about to see and all that, but the film does such a lackluster job in terms of documenting and detailing the characters and the settings that we're thrown into, that by the end of the film you felt as if you kind of wasted your time while watching it. And that's not a good feeling to have when you leave a movie theater. I do like certain parts of this film. I do like Martin Herlihy's character. I thought he did great as the unbearable clown on screen. I liked his work with Please Don't Destroy on SNL. But there were just a lot more negatives than positives in this film. I got to be honest about it. There were a lot more negatives than positives. A lot of corporate advertising was in this film. You saw ads for Liquid Death and Monster Energy, Puma. I don't know, I'm sure there was a Butterfingers ad in there as well. It felt at odds with what the movie was trying to come across and the message that was trying to come from the movie. When you watch the movie, you're like, okay, this is like an anti-corporate sort of I wouldn't say anti-capitalist, but anti-dystopia America. And that was basically what the movie was about. And what the movie was based on was about. That was written by Stephen King. And then you watch it and you see all these brands and you're just like, this is clashing with what the tone of the movie is about and what it's supposed to be. So all that's to say, I did enjoy this film. It was only me and one other guy who was seated like 2 or 3 rows back. And I watched this the second week. The budget for this film is nearly in the $100 million, if not a little over $100 million. You expect it to be a little bit better than that. But it just wasn't the case. So, all that is to say, don't watch this movie. Or watch it, but this is definitely a misfire on Edgar Wright's part. Again, what Edgar Wright is able to do is take commercial cinema and tinker with it. And have fun with it. Realize that not everything has to be an art piece or, has to have like these subtle meanings or, need to be watched again with fresh eyes, with a different perspective. He makes commercial films that are able to be palatable for not only the average film goer, but for your more sort of adventurous film goer who may not have an interest in those action films. I still love Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is still one of the best horror comedies ever made. I still really enjoyed Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. There are parts of Baby Driver that I found admirable, but Baby Driver was definitely a break of that and was definitely something that I thought Edgar Wright could really take by the horns and really go for it. And he did it in that movie, most definitely. I just wanted more of that. So I just wanted a more of a maturation of that filmmaking process by Edgar Wright. And I just wasn't able to get that through this movie. I just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe he needs to re-team back up with Simon Pegg. Maybe that's the issue. But I don't know. I think when the next movie comes out, I'm not going to be as enthusiastic about watching it as I would have been if this movie was good. And I think that's the most damning indictment that he can give. So, I don't know. The more I think about that movie, the more mad I get because there's so much potential that could have been in the movie that wasn't really able to be explored in the movie. So I'll stop while I'm ahead, and I'll get into the next movie that I did watch in the theaters, and that is Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value. The film stars Stellan Skarsgård as this acclaimed director as he's trying to make a film that is for his daughter, which I don't remember her name, the actor's name, but she did really good in this film. It stars Stellan Skarsgård as this acclaimed director who's in his late ages, who wants to have his daughter star in his film, his estranged daughter star in his film. His daughter is a serious theater actor who starred in several plays, but he wants her to star in the film, and she's estranged, so they don't really have a good relationship with one another. And the film is basically a documentation of their relationship with one another, as well as Stellan Skarsgård's process of getting the film made. I love this film. This is the first film that I've seen from Joachim Trier, and I thought it was amazing. This is definitely the best film that I've watched in the theater, and quite possibly it's in my top films of 2025. It really is. It's probably in my top 5. If you look at my Letterboxd, which is right over here, or right over here, wherever it pops up, you'll see it's in my top 5. It's a great film. I loved it. I thought Stellan Skarsgård did amazing in this film. I felt like he was able to really show the more sort of neurotic / paranoid old man director in a way that I haven't seen before. I thought the performances in general were amazing. Even Elle Fanning, who's in this film, did really well. In fact, this is probably my favorite Elle Fanning movie that she's done in the month of November, which is quite steep competition when it comes to Predator Badlands. I still really enjoy Predator Badlands, but in terms of Sentimental Value, I thought this film really took the cake. You kind of know that you're going to watch a good movie when you see the opening montage of the film, or when you see the opening scene of the film, where you see the lead actor go into a play and you realize that she's not fit for the moment. She's hyperventilating, she's having trouble with her breathing problems, she's going in and out of the production of the play with the corridors of the play, and you see all these people telling her, no, you look fine, and they're redoing her dress, and then she is forced to go back out there, and she gives a great performance. In a lot of ways, that movie is a parallel to what this movie is actually about. Or that scene from that movie is a parallel to what this movie is actually about, which is, you're never really prepared for the certainties in life. You're never really prepared for what's to come, but you got to deal with those issues to the best of your ability. And Stellan Skarsgård gave a great performance as well. I felt as if this entire movie hinged on his performance, and he really gave it with flying colors. There are moments in this film where it's kind of predictable. You sort of see the ending scene, and you think to yourself, well, they just alluded to that scene earlier on in this film. I know it's not really real. It's part of a, production. But still, it was able to hit all the right beats and patterns, and it was able to hit all the right mood swings. And by the end of the film, you sort of sit back and you think, man, like, this is a great film. And maybe a few tears were shed while watching the end of it. Maybe not. I don't know. But it is a great film. There's this particular scene in which Stellan Skarsgård's character gives his grandson a series of films, one of them being The Piano Teacher, and I audibly laughed in the theater. It was hilarious. I love that scene so much. It's great. But yeah, I think this is a film not only for a commercial audience, but also for those that have never really been able to, or that are more into the more niche films as well. There's a moment in which Stellan Skarsgård is talking about the filmmaking process and how, the James Joyces wouldn't be around today because of how many hoops that artists have to go through to create a project that is scintillating and can be enjoyed, but also have this sort of artistic merit to it. And you watch it and you think to yourself, okay, that's a little bit pretentious, but there is validity to what he's saying. I mean, I think a lot of times we shield or shelter away promising young talent from making good art because it doesn't hit the right buzzwords or it doesn't follow the fashion of what other people are doing. And it's kind of sad to think about it, but it's just the reality of the artistic process. So all that is to say, this film is really good and you should definitely watch it. And it's definitely my favorite film that I watched in the month of November. So I'll stop while I'm ahead. I think I spoiled I don't think I spoiled anything, but I definitely did tee up certain scenes that better reviewers may have spoiled. So I'll stop while I'm ahead. Definitely go watch this film. I don't know if it's still airing in theaters, probably not, but once it hits streaming, definitely go watch it. All right. This leads me into a documentary that I did watch. This was released back in September, but it hit streaming recently, and that is Mike Figgis' Megadoc. It is a documentary about the making of Megalopolis and the twists and turns that Francis Ford Coppola had to endure to have that project see the light of day. It is Francis Ford Coppola's passion project. He spent nearly over $100 million making that film, and Nathan and I discussed it on the podcast. Definitely go watch it. It's a great film. Great film review. It's not a great film. It's a great film review. Definitely go watch it. And I thought this documentary was like watching a car accident on the road. It was entertaining. It was scintillating. I wouldn't necessarily say it was great, but it definitely gave you insight as to how tumultuous and how disruptive the creative process for making this film actually was. At no point does this documentary allude to the alleged sexual harassment of Francis Ford Coppola on the set of Megalopolis. Apparently he was kissing extras and, maybe it's overblown. I'm not so sure. That's not my point to judge, or that's not my area to judge. But it does give you a sort of an insight as to the butting of heads for the production of this film. There's this moment, or several moments in this film, in which Shia LaBeouf and Francis Ford Coppola have a constant butting of heads, where Shia is just like, I don't know what you want out of me. Like, what do you want out of me? Like, why are we entering into this scene but not walking from point A to point B, and we're just having this conversation all happen in just this one particular space?
My action's no different no matter what he does.
Yeah, so what are we inventing a whole step for? Where did that come from? Who is the director who came in here and started to stage the scene?
You're obviously the director.
Yeah, but I'm not having a chance to.
And Francis Ford Coppola is like, I'm the director here. Like, why are you telling me to direct when I should be the one directing? Just this constant butting of heads. It felt as if Shia was the only one interested in trying to hear the vision of Coppola. There are a lot of individuals in this film where they're thinking to themselves, okay, this is going to be a mess of a film, but I'm just going to play along with it because how many times do I get to say that I was a part of a Coppola film? Aubrey Plaza is one of those individuals where you kind of realize from the get-go that she realizes and knows that the film is not going to be good, but she plays along with it because she realizes that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work with a Coppola. Why not have fun with it? She's also a part of the documentary. She sat down with Mike Figgis. You can definitely see the playful banter that she has with Mike Figgis, and how even though she is somewhat in character, she still entertains the fact of the documentary and the making of the documentary. There's this one scene in particular in which you sort of see the festering of the combativeness between Coppola and his crew, because Coppola has, production people working with him. He has a VFX team. And the VFX team is like saying to Coppola that, hey, we may have to go over budget for your vision to occur. We're going to have a lot of other externalizing factors and extrapolating factors, and that may balloon this budget even more. And then you just see Coppola just fire that group of people the very next day, and it hits the trades, hits Hollywood Reporter and all that, saying that he fired, people of the film and how it's a nightmare and a disaster. And Coppola's kind of bragging about, yeah, it's going to be a disaster, it's going to be a nightmare. They say it's going to be a nightmare, but it's really going to be one of the greatest, art pieces of our time, and it's going to be a love letter to, a more utopian America. And, obviously you see the Ayn Rand influence in the film as well. But it was a fun doc. It was a fun watch. It's like watching a car accident, it was an hour and some change, I guess, hour and a half, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, you watch that and you realize, yeah, the film is still not great. I can admire and appreciate the absurdity of that film and the fun of that film. I can also appreciate how great of a soundtrack that film is, and the Megalopolis soundtrack, and how it's great to listen to. But it's still not a great film. And I'm sure it's going to develop a cult following. If it hasn't already developed a cult following, it will develop a cult following in the years to come. But, yeah. It was just a fun little doc. Definitely go watch it if you haven't already. And before I begin to talk about my last film of the day, I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a gambling app.
I also want to give a big thank you to the sponsor for this video, Zynga. You know that moment in Wicked when everything's glowing green? That's kind of how this new Hit It Rich update feels. It's theatrical, it's fun, and it's surprisingly immersive. Hit It Rich is Zynga's free-to-download social casino app.
Anyways, let's get into our final film for today, and that is Chloé Zhao's Hamnet. I recently watched this over the weekend. The film stars Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, as he has a golden earring in his ear. William Shakespeare, as the film is basically a documentation of how he met his wife Agnes and the relationship that they've had, and the tumultuous relationship that they've had with one another. How it devolves into his 11-year-old son dying, and how that serves as an inspiration for the making of his play, the iconic play known as Hamlet. This was an enjoyable film to watch. I enjoyed watching this film. It's not a fun film. It's definitely very, very heavy-hearted and sometimes even depressing to watch because you're just really into the emotional scenes of the film. But it is a good film. It's definitely a good film. At times, this film felt like a play, which makes sense because it is dealing with Shakespeare. So when you watch the film, it is set up like a play because most of the scenes happen in a home. In fact, I got very much a Mother vibe from the movie, the Darren Aronofsky film, because it's all happening mostly in a home, and you're just seeing the emotional tolls that both Agnes, played by Jessie Buckley, and Paul Mescal, who plays William Shakespeare, are going through in the film, and the extended families that are in the film as well. But you sort of understand the emotional sincerity of their performances and how it contextualizes the film in general. The common critique that I've been seeing from this film is that it feels much like torture porn, where you're just watching it and you sort of take glee or find interest in the fact that they're not having a good time, but I didn't really get that from this film. If anything, I felt like Chloé Zhao really understood what she was trying to go for in this film and really understood the emotions that she wanted the audience to feel while watching it. Again, it is an enjoyable film. It's not necessarily a fun watch. There is one moment that did take me out of the film, and this is maybe just the most minor nitpick, but there's a moment in which, and I don't know if this is a spoiler, but Shakespeare is thinking about whether or not he should end it all, right? He sees his son is dead, and he's thinking about ending it all. He's standing at the tip of a bridge, and he's overseeing this ocean, and he's thinking about ending it all. And before he makes a decision, he says, to be or not to be, that is the question. And I don't know if it felt like that moment in Oppenheimer when they were trying to like tee up like a sequel or something of that nature. But it took me out of the film. I couldn't stop laughing. I think I gave an audible laugh while watching that particular scene in that moment, because I was like, that's where you shoehorn in a Shakespeare quote, is when he's literally on the verge of death. I was like, what? But anyways, minor nitpicks aside, this is a good film. Definitely go watch it. By the last 30 minutes of the movie, you're basically seeing a play, the play of the Hamlet, and for a lot of audiences, they may not be that invested in the play. To me, I understood why they added it and how it was in service to the script and to the movie, but for some people, it may take them out of the movie. But again, similar to that of Sentimental Value, like by the end of the movie, it is a watershed moment. It is a tear-jerking moment. You know, when you see William Shakespeare find his catharsis through his play and how he was able to use his play as a vessel for grief, and how he was able to turn this play as a way to internalize that grief and process that grief. It is a watershed moment, and it realizes and teaches us how we are able to process our grief in a way that may not always be of sadness or of torture or of being in the down and outs. There are other ways to process our emotions and our anger, and some people do it through artistic means, some people do it through the idea of a play, and maybe some people do it through a movie. But I thought that was a great scene, and yeah, some great performances in this movie. You know, it's, if you are a fan of Blue Valentine or Manchester by the Sea, but you want to see a more sort of old-fashioned way of going about it, and dare I say, no pun intended, Shakespearean way of going about it, you'll definitely enjoy this movie. So yeah, all that is to say, definitely go watch it. It is not for the faint of heart. Definitely go in expecting an emotional movie, and if you do, you'll enjoy it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all the movies that I watched in the month of November. This is an actual podcast because it took longer than 30 minutes. Usually I discuss movies and they're like 10, 15 minutes at the very most. Sometimes if it's a P.T. Anderson movie like One Battle, it's 17 minutes. But today I decided to throw everything in the kitchen sink for this episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Catch me next week. I'll probably have a guest. I hope it's Ethan. Nothing has been set in stone yet, but I will be back, and I hope you guys tune in for that. So yes, those are all the movies that I watched in the month of November that were new releases. Obviously, there are certain movies that I didn't watch. They shall remain nameless for now. But yes, that is it. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.